Greetings, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back again in this channel and to share some of the insight that I've gained over the period that we've been discussing and actually through the week that I would want to share with you today. So today I'm going to talk about the role of professional associations in reimagining the future of practice and a case with a focus on pharmacy. So this is a case for pharmacy, being pharmacy is the area that I practice in, and it's a profession that I really do love. So looking at it from the role of professional associations, and start from the point of defining what are these professional associations. We all within a profession. These are people who possess specialized skills, special information, and abide by a particular set of rules and norms that govern how they practice and how they deliver their mandate as professionals in those lines of work. So on that account, then the role of professional association is going to be critical because it shapes how practice happened, it shapes how the future would look like, and it shapes how young people engage with that information wherever they are actually the professionals themselves, how they interact with each other, how they shape the practice in that domain, and how they advance their practice areas. So that is a critical bit for us. And professional associations, as we all acknowledge the role of networks, networks play a critical role in terms of cross-pollinating ideas that we have, giving us a support system, and actually enabling us to leverage on our capabilities and strengths within such networks to be able to achieve substantial advances and progress that we would not have been able to achieve at individual level. So that makes it critical that we have to be keen on what are we doing within the professional associations and the professional networks, and how does that engagement within the professional associations shape the future of our practice as individuals and as members of the professional association. So that's a critical bit for all of us. And I would recommend that if at all you're watching this video at this particular moment, whether you're a student, you are a practicing individual, you're a recent graduate, or even a tenured professional in the field of practice where you are, please consider engaging in a professional association and being a member of one. So from student professional association, let's say, for example, in the pharmacy students, you have the specific university chapters. Then you have the national associations. For example, in Kenya, we can talk of the Pharmacy Society, Pharmacy Students Association of Kenya, KEPSA. Then when you get past graduation, you have the PSK, Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya. They have the Young Pharmacist Group and the PSK, now the major umbrella organization. Then from that, you can go to the continental or the regional one. And the continental, we look at it from the point of Africa Pharmaceutical Forum. And there's a network of African pharmaceutical specialists and pharmaceutical practitioners. There we talk about African Pharmaceutical Network. You can reach out to me on email. I'll share the link in the comment below. So other than that, the other bit is to engage at a global level. And at a global level, we have the International Pharmaceutical Federation, FIP, which is a critical member association that is going to guide us in terms of how we share insights and collaborate in different advances. And it also gives us a platform to share our ideas and the best practices from whichever area that we are in. So first of all, consider engaging with one and being a member, because by being a member, we are all championing for a common cause and leveraging on the capabilities of each of our members to be able to contribute to the profession, to be able to grow at a personal level and on a professional account. So that is a critical bit. So when I'm looking about the role of professional associations in reimagining the future practice, I'm key to the fact that one constant that we've all acknowledged is the fact that practice is changing. Whichever area of work that you are in, there's always advances. The dynamics of the industry are keep on coming in, and therefore we have to keep up with these dynamics and trends. And in the pharma space, there's a lot that have been happening, especially over COVID period, and even before that, there has been trends. These trends have shaped how the future is going to look like, and therefore with that future, we have to be keen on how are we positioning ourselves to transform that future and actually to shape it rather than respond to it. And that is a critical bit. And some of the growing trends that I've acknowledged over the period of time, advances in digital solutions and digital technologies. We all acknowledge the role of digital technologies and the role of IT in transforming practice, especially pharmacy practice, from telemedicine, e-pharmacy, telepharmacy consults, and even patient support programs that are run through digital platforms. And even when we go to the specific measures, the smartwatch, measuring your vitals and related, monitoring your heartbeat and all that, you need to be able to identify that digital solutions have a critical role to play. So that is a growing area for us. Then other than that, we can look at the aspect on financing, because at the end of the day, we have to finance the solutions. We have to incentivize the practitioners and actually motivate them to continue doing what they do. And that means there's an aspect of financing. So how are we financing healthcare? How are we financing these solutions? That is a critical bit as well. Then ultimately, when we look at pharmacy practice, there's always a component that we're dealing with medicines or healthcare products. And these healthcare products have to reach out from the production site, that is the manufacturing component, including for medicines, we can talk about the active pharmaceutical ingredient. Before they even get to the manufacturing of the final medicine that is going to be used by the patient, they have to go through that chain. So how does that supply chain work? And how do we integrate it? And what are the challenges that we're having in those areas? Then ultimately, once we look at those, they will now look at the services that are being delivered to the actual patients who need the services of the professionals. When we look at all those emerging trends, we have to acknowledge that dynamics that are coming around these are not only because they are components of our practice area, but they are components of our practice area as a result of challenges that are being witnessed. When we talk about digital solutions, the key aspect is we're looking at how do we make access to care easier for every other person, democratizing access, that is one. Two, convenience. At the end of the day, a patient wants to do several other things, and therefore you have a responsibility to make that access to healthcare services be robust and be within the timely environment where they need that service. And that brings us to a component that we'll look at in terms of self-care. So how are we adopting digital technologies to advance self-care? There is a need, and we are meeting that need using these new advances in technologies and solutions that we can think of. When you talk about supply chain has been an issue because access to medicines depended on the ability to be transported from one location to the other, and the planning that comes before even the transportation or the shipment to that particular region. So we need supply chain solution that one will give traceability. Can I trace the medicine from where it was produced to the ultimate patient who is consuming it? Can we actually safeguard or de-risk the supply chain network to ensure that there's no risk of any counterfeit fake medicines getting into the pipeline? Other than that, we need to look at, do I have sufficient information on the consumption patterns that can now let me know that if, for example, I'm working in a particular locality within the country, then I am able to identify the consumption patterns and ensure that I plan my supplies within timelines that will ensure nobody misses out on the critical medicines that they need to be able to lead their lives. And other than that, now we move to the other aspect on financing. There's financing that is needed to pay the practitioner, let's say, for example, the medical doctors, the pharmacists. Then when we look at that aspect, who is financing it? When we talk about medicines, who is paying for that medicine? Because at the end of the day, somebody has to pay for the sustainability of the production and the supply chain framework. Who is financing it? What are the alternative financing mechanisms that are available? We can talk about health insurance schemes. Are they giving rebates, for example, for medicines or even for the pharmaceutical services? How do we make it happen? And then other than that, some of the challenges, somebody would want to set up, let's say, a pharmacy at a particular location and they're not able to raise the funding needed. What alternative financing mechanisms are available for them to be able to deliver on these? And actually, that is a topic that I'll be talking about in the next session that I'm hosting. That is next week on Friday, on financing of pharmaceutical solutions, and we look at innovative financing models. So stay tuned and keep look out on these, because these are some of the things that we'll be looking into and ensuring we have robust mechanisms. So once we look at all those components and even the needs that are emerging trends, one of them we can acknowledge that there are different players that are coming into the pharmacy space. And with these emerging entrants, actually the entrants that are getting into our space, we need to be able to know how are we going to work with them, how do they shape the future of our practice, and how do we engage creatively and constructively. For example, one key person that has come into the play is actually Mark Cuban, the founder, the owner of Maverick Dallas basketball team. So when we look at his investment, he's looking at de-risking the entire supply chain of generics with a focus on affordability, lowering the cost, which is a critical bit. So if that is another problem, we've already seen the financing, affordability of care is a problem. How do we ensure there's a solution that's coming in? He's leading that front, and he has partners who are actually helping him do that. And the question is, within the professional associations, can we do such kind of interventions? Can we collaborate? Can we de-ideate? And through ideation, then we can mobilize the resources to be able to deliver on this. He got a partner who actually ideated the idea, and he has the money to support, and he had the need to get into that space, and is now driving that agenda. How many of us as pharmacists are getting into such spaces? We need to be critical. Currently, when you talk about emergent service models of practice, for example, in retail pharmacy practice, we all acknowledge that mental health is an issue that needs to be addressed. And it has to be addressed where patients seek mental health care service or patients seek healthcare services. This week, actually on Monday, 14th February, on Valentine's Day, I had a session with the International Pharmaceutical Federation where I was talking about my idea for change as a champion for change 2021, where I was looking at what is the role of pharmacists in promoting access to mental health services, promoting autonomous living of patients with mental illnesses, and adopting digital solutions. Once the link is out, I'll share it with you in the channel as well, so that you can look at some of the ideas that we're looking at. But as we are thinking of it as ideas, as concepts that can be applied, somebody is already doing it. And who is that person? We have Walgreens and CVS pharmacies in the US. These are actually clinics are already adopting mental health services as part of their service portfolio, and they are engaging with practitioners in the space to ensure they are able to serve patients where patients need that care. And if they're able to do that, they're opening up new streams of work, new finance streams, and even better serving their patients by optimizing their engagement level within the community. They reach out to the patients within their touch points and their need areas. And when you look at the consumer decision journey, you can realize that by being able to be there for the patients when they need the patient, they're building loyalty. And when you build loyalty, you're able to cash in on that loyalty and leverage on it to be able to offer the services that they need, but at the same time, continue ensuring uptake of your services, demand creation aspect. So those are critical bits that we have to acknowledge. So then, knowing all that's happening, what is the place of professional associations? These advances are coming. We are all thinking about them. We are all envisioning them. And some of us are actually being engaged by these stakeholders that are driving these advances. Then what are we doing? We need to shape that conversation. In shaping that conversation, we have to be part of the discussions. We need to ideate beyond the core practice where we are employed or so, but get these new insights and share those insights with the stakeholders in those spaces to be able to shape the conversation. That is one of the things that I'm mentioning about professional associations. You have networking meetings. Even today, actually, after this video, I'm going to join the Young Pharmacist group in Nairobi Arboretum for a meet and greet. The key bit is let's interact with each other. Let's build networks within ourselves and share ideas. As we shape conversations, there will be some brilliant idea that emerges from that conversation that is shaping the future of our practice. So let's shape the conversation, actively contribute, and be the thought leaders in this space. And on this account, I'm going to mention a very great friend of mine and somebody that I look up to as a brother and as a friend, Dr. Derek Mugambi, working with Portal Pharmacy. He's taken it upon himself to drive the patient engagement and general stakeholder engagement in championing for the future of pharmacy. And is championing for the future of pharmacy from what they're doing at the pharmacy level. And other than what they're doing at the pharmacy level, they're looking at what prospects does he have as a pharmacist? How can he shape that future? And what is he going to do about it? So by sharing these insights, he's already thinking of something beyond the standard practice. If somebody engages with that, they're setting themselves apart for what the future would want to do. And I think those are some of the advances that we need to look into. And we can even engage in such through the professional associations. He's a key member of the professional associations. We engage with him through the YPG, Africa Pharmaceutical Network. And these are things that are going to shape the future of our practice. And professional associations can give us the environment to do that. Informing policies. We know every area that we work within, especially the pharmaceutical industry, is a highly regulated market. And with highly regulated markets, we have to be able to shape the policy that are going to govern our practices. It's never going to happen unless we know what is going to shape that future. Most of the policymakers that we've given the responsibility to develop policies, they depend on us as practitioners to inform them on what is working best for us from an industry perspective. And therefore, if we are not going to be able to share those insights, we are killing our own industry because we're letting somebody who doesn't practice, who doesn't interact with the actual dynamics of the market on a day-to-day basis to shape how we work. It's either going to kill innovativeness and creativity in the industry, or it's going to overregulate how we work, and therefore we'll have lapses. And those lapses are not going only to affect us as practitioners, but also to affect the patients and the individuals that we serve in that domain. So let's do our part to ensure we're not leaving patients behind and we're not failing our profession. Point number 4, actively invest and chaperone the new frontiers of practice. There's nothing that's going to happen unless we do it. And to do it, we have to invest and actually be part of that journey. And that is why when I see some people setting up their own practices, they are setting up new models of practice. For example, a great friend of mine, Dr. Hezron Munyakin, working on pharmacy media journalism and all that, pharma journalism, is looking at how does he shape the conversation by sharing these new insights. Dr. Miriam Favor Ngudi, looking at how she can share the conversations on what young pharmacists are doing in the different domains of work. These are new areas of work, and they're shaping them by actually investing their time, investing their finances if where feasible. And when they're doing these, they're setting the standards of what the future would look like. And those are critical bits. And through the professional associations, we can offer this support. We can actually even mobilize members to support such kind of ventures, because at the end of the day, these are the people who are shaping the future of our practice. If we sit back and let them struggle, most of these ideas will die. When these ideas die, we lose as a profession, because the next generation of pharmacists who would have taken up on what they started, who would have learned from them failings and their undoings, will now have a benchmark. And with that benchmark, we're setting them for success. Without it, we're setting them for failure. And that is not what we wish for. So we need to actively invest and support them on that journey as we set these new frontiers of practice, as we get towards that envisioned future. Finally, we need to support and spotlight these pioneering members. We need to give them the visibility. Marketing shapes practice. Marketing and promotion, actually engagement, communication, I wouldn't call it communication generally. Unless it's communicated, nobody will ever know it exists. And therefore, there's limited chance of growth. And that is why we need to take advantage of the professional networks as avenues to share ideas, to spotlight these best practices. Because as we spotlight them, we're giving them visibility with potential for them to rake in on these and maybe generate some funding, seed capital that they would need to keep the idea going. And we have to be part of the conversation. We need to support each other. And professional associations, we understand the dynamics, we understand the challenges, and we are willing to support one another. So why don't we do it? I think the future of our practices are going to be dependent on how the professional associations shape them. And if at all our professional associations fail on that particular mandate, we'll be killing our own professions in the pursuit of our immediate, actually short-term gratification, in the sense of not doing what would be good for the long term. And actually, this video, I will say, is informed by a conversation that I had with a great friend, Dr. Libea Bethwell, for TISO Pharmacy. He mentioned an aspect on what McCuban is doing in aggregation and networking in terms of the supply chain. And I think that is a component that is coming up. And as pharmacists, as pharmaceutical practitioners, we need to look at it from an aggregation perspective. This is now my idea. By aggregating our resources, aggregating our capabilities, working within networks, we're going to shape the future, because it's not only what David can do, but what David, Libea, Derek, and Hezron can do together. Marianne can contribute to the particular chain. How do we do all these together and shape that future that we want to shape? So let's make the best of it. Let's shape the future of our professions by actually being part of the professional associations. And if the professional associations are not serving us, we need to ensure we position them to serve us better, because without them, we are killing the profession, and there's nowhere to plug into. A sense of ownership is going to shape what the future looks like. Thank you so much. Look forward to engaging with you in the next session that I'll be talking about financing in the pharmaceutical value chain. Thank you, and have the best of the day.